For the first time in decades, younger adults, Gen Z and millennials, are now the most regular churchgoers, outpacing older generations who once formed the backbone of church attendance.
Welcome to episode 2 of season 3 of the Leading Smart podcast, where we are talking about leading in real time. I'm your co-host, Holly Tate, and I'm joined by the other co-host, the other host, Tim Stevens.
Glad to be here. Whatever we call ourselves doesn't really matter.
It's so true. All right, Tim. Today, here in season 3, we're talking about leading in real time, hot topics, trends we're seeing, etc. You actually brought up this topic to me. We were together a couple weeks ago, and you were like, "Did you see that article about how Gen Z men are leading in church attendance trends?" And I had not seen it at the time, and now I've seen it pop up multiple times from different organizations. Barna is writing on it a lot right now. In fact, a couple of days ago, we are recording this on October 10th. As of October 7th, they released an article about it, and then back in September, I think was when the data came out around um, the different generations compared to church attendance. So, what stuck out to you when you kind of saw this for the first time, where you were like, "Oh man, isn't this interesting?"
It's just been like, as long as I've been alive or even reading, church history prior to, it's just been a fact forever that young adults, once you get out of high school, you're not going to church when you go to college, and you're probably not returning until you're in your 30s when you have kids. It's just been a fact. And that fact has completely reversed. The headline or byline of the article says, for the first time in decades, younger adults, Gen Z and millennials, are now the most regular churchgoers, outpacing older generations who once formed the backbone of church attendance.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Which I told you before we pressed record. I'm a millennial, which I'm kind of like, I guess, in the middle. I guess I'm like a middle millennial. I'll be 37 in a couple months. And I don't feel like a young adult anymore, but we did the math, and the youngest millennials are 30 this year, it seems like, somewhere around 30.
Yeah.
So I guess they would still be considered. I think of young adults as like early to mid 20s. To me, I feel like when you get into your late 20s, like maybe you're still young adults, but I kind of feel like you're not. I don't know. What about you?
Well, I mean, the article says younger adults, so relative to old farts like me, I mean, you are younger.
That is
So,
true. That is true. I am younger.
and young is a state of mind. I always tell myself. I
Mhm.
tell myself more often the older I get, like, you can choose to be old or you can choose to be young. We all know like 24-year-olds that have like old souls and they walk around like old men, and
Mhm.
and people that are in their 70s that are super young and energetic and full of life. And
It's very
so,
true. It's very true.
but
Well,
what's interesting to me is what my personal experience is post COVID.
mhm.
The data we had at Willow, and I've scores of churches that I've talked to were similar in that the older people, 60 plus, were the slowest to come back to church. And at first we thought it was just fear. They were the seniors were the most fearful about COVID, which rightfully so. But then they never came back. Like so many of them just never came back. And churches seem like, a lot of churches we're working with seem like they're having you know, a revival of newcomers, people that have never been to church before. They're experiencing mental health issues or loneliness or whatever, and they're coming to church in spades now, and they're younger. And where churches really feel that is in the finances, because the people that the boomers or builders that left,
Yeah.
a lot of them took their money with them, and the young people, younger adults that are coming aren't giving yet. Either they just don't have as much money, and or they're just not discipled yet in their generosity. So churches are growing in attendance, and while their finances are lagging way behind.
Yes, we're seeing that across the board right now in growing churches. The leading smart gatherings that we do, we hear that so often. Our attendance is up, but our giving is either flat or has decreased a little bit, which is so interesting. Which actually, this article kind of speaks to that. It says, it talks about the historic reversal, which you already mentioned. why it matters. This shift signals a new opportunity for ministry. Younger adults are showing spiritual curiosity and a desire for belonging, but even as they attend more often than older adults, they still attend less than half the time. So every touch point matters. I love that. Every touch point matters. And then the leadership challenge. Weekly rhythms can no longer be assumed. Church leaders will need to reimagine discipleship pathways, relational connections, and volunteer engagement in ways that resonate with a younger majority. And that is a big challenge for, I mean, as long as I can remember, it's, Sunday comes every week. We're all, I mean, even with a church
Yeah.
I've been working with recently, we're one of the things we've learned in working with their executive team is their executive meetings all really are focused on Sunday. And it's like, why
Yeah.
are we spending the majority of our time on this thing that when we might have X number of thousands of people that are a part of our community in some way, but only 1,000 of them show up on Sunday? Yet we're spending 90% of our time focused on those 1,000 rather than the potential 10,000 that might be on our email list or might be coming to us throughout the week through some event that's not on Sunday, et cetera. So I do appreciate this challenge from the Barna article to rethink those weekly rhythms and not just do things the way we've always done them.
And it's interesting on the weekly rhythms. You think about most churches do series, or they preach through passages or books of the Bible. I mean, according to this data in the U.S., Gen Z attends the most often, and they attend 1.9 times a month. All the way down to boomers attend the least often at 1.4 times per month. So you're doing a journey through the book of Philippians for the next 10 weeks. At best, people are hearing every other week or getting a half of that. And senior pastors are spending a ton of time, or teaching pastors spending a ton of time on making it all, build one week after the other. And remember what we talked about last week? And you just can't assume that anymore.
Mhm.
So I've seen creative churches do like what TV shows do when they have kind of the recap at the beginning of the TV show of the previous episodes.
Yeah.
And I've seen creative churches do like a recap, and where they'll do a 2 or 3 minute video that has some teaching moments from each of the previous weeks. And they're assuming, because most people, or not most, well, yeah, actually most
Mhm.
people aren't there every week. So you kind of have to figure out how to get creative about that.
Yeah, I love that idea. The recap from the previous Sunday. That'd be super helpful. I mean, because just last week we were on vacation and we weren't there. So I have no idea
Yeah.
what they talked about on Sunday.
And I'm probably in the 1.4 range because I'm traveling a ton. And
Mhm.
so I'm at best at my church 1 or 2 weeks a month. And I know we can assume, well, they're all watching the sermon, if they're not there. And like, okay, that's a great assumption, but probably not accurate.
Mhm.
Even with my best intentions, it's like you just don't have necessarily time to get to it. And you might say, well, that's just you, Tim, because you travel and work with churches. And it's like, well, everyone has something like that, where it's travel sports, or it's business, they have a house at the lake, it's whatever. I mean, there's lots of reasons, or they're just like stayed up late too late and they just don't feel like getting up and going.
Yeah.
And so we just have to we can't assume that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you mentioned, so one of the downsides of this is the finances lagging behind. And we're going to talk about finances, or, giving, generosity, et cetera, in a later episode. So I don't want to spend too much time on that today, because it deserves a lot more than we could give it in just a
Yeah.
couple minutes. Um, but I would love to explore what we're seeing in the Big C Church, the clients that we're working with around. At the end of this article, it says turning churchgoers into disciples. Um, and so David Kinnaman, CEO of Barna, this quote from him, he says, "The significant drop off among older generations shows that the fabric of congregational life is changing. It's more frayed and less gray than it was a decade ago. The influx of new generations represents a massive opportunity for congregational leaders, but this renewed interest must be stewarded well. Our research clearly shows that church going alone does not in itself create devoted disciples. Even with the increasing participation of younger generations, there is still the challenge of shaping hearts and minds to live out their faith beyond church participation." So I'm thinking of one of our leading smart clients right now, Tim, that is they're actually in Canada. And I just think they're doing a phenomenal job of, not only is their team mostly Generation Z and millennials, and the investment that they're making into their own staff and raising them up as disciples and leaders, but I know they've recently created a role for young adults specifically, which is, it sounds like they kind of looked at the landscape and were like, wait a second, we have a lot of young adults that are coming, but we don't have anyone dedicated specifically to their spiritual formation. And I know several like mega churches, like massive churches that have young adult pastors, but I feel like for the average normal sized church in North America, I don't see a lot of that. And I'm curious. I think that might be an opportunity for us to kind of what's the word I'm looking for when you like knight someone? What is that word? Deploy? No.
Deploy, yes.
Yeah, I feel like there's a different
Let's
word
go
I'm
ahead and
looking
use
for.
night. I feel like night
Yeah.
works because we have an international
Knight
audience. Sure they understand this.
knight someone on your staff who is responsible for thinking about what should the spiritual formation or connection pathway look like for young adults, because it might be different from what has worked for people with families or empty nesters in your congregation. So I'm curious to hear, that client
Yeah.
came to mind for me. What comes to mind for you?
What's interesting is like, back in the day, 25, 30 years, 35 years ago, the churches that you would hear have like a young adults thing happening. And like, then every young adult from every church in the county is heading to that church because they have this
Yeah.
amazing thing on Tuesday nights or on Sunday nights or whatever. The reason we were doing it back then is because young adults weren't coming to church. So it's like, okay, we have to almost create a church within a church that's tailored completely to them because they're not coming to, big people church or whatever it is we're offering on the weekends.
Yeah.
And this data is interesting in that it would say that should if we're doing it, that should no longer be the reason because they are coming.
Yeah.
And they're finding some connection to the churches that we're leading. So then what do we do, as you said, and as the article said, like, what do we do then on the spiritual formation side of things? It's probably not, I don't know that today it is create a church within a church and have its own service and keep them completely separate from what's happening in the life of the church elsewhere. But it probably is paying attention to some community kind of things, some, relational group type of experiences where people can really grow in their faith. And we're really focused on helping them take those steps. And like you said, we knight someone. How about select? We find someone that wakes up thinking about that and is pouring their time into it. And a smaller church can't have maybe someone full time doing that, but they could have a lay person that's doing that, or they could have someone who's wearing a second hat and focused on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, for our fun segment today, this is kind of a hybrid of having a guest on / also a fun segment. But in the Simply Strategic show that you and Tony Morgan did, you guys had a fun segment where you would just call somebody out of the blue and see if they'd pick up the phone. That was 20 years ago. And so I thought we could kind of bring that back because part of season 3, Leading in Real Time, we are tipping our hat to the Simply Strategic show in that you released it with Tony Morgan 20 years ago. And now with season 3, we have an ebook where we're re-releasing those episodes. You can download the ebook, read the show summaries, and then click on and listen to the link to kind of see what's the same and what's changed in the Big C Church over the last 20 years. And so wanted to bring that segment in for an expert on this topic, which is Hannah. I would love for you to tell us about Hannah and Generation Distinct. I know you love this organization. And yeah, tell us what your involvement with them is.
Yeah, this is an organization. They're based here in Chicago. I actually met Hannah in Nashville several years ago. And I'm like, oh my word, like doing such amazing work. And so I've just been pouring time and resources into helping them succeed. But their vision is to help young leaders, help young people find the wrong they were born to make right. And so they do this through cohorts and through mentoring and all kinds of things, and do such an amazing job. But they live downtown Chicago, Hannah and her husband, Aaron. And so we get to hang out with them occasionally, which is super fun, and then just pour into them. But just so you know, when I did this with Tony, like we did this several times and hardly ever did anyone answer. So we're going to give this a shot. And I'm going to put it on speakerphone, and we'll see if Hannah Gronowski Barnett picks up the phone, or maybe Aaron will. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear that okay?
No, I can't hear it.
You can't hear it at all?
Oh, probably because it's going in your.
Hello? Hello?
I can hear.
Hello?
Hello.
I've got you both? No way.
No.
Chicago.
Oh wait, hold it like.
Awesome.
Are you holding it right?
Hang
by
on
the
a
mic?
second. We're having audio issues here.
All right.
I've got Holly on the other line, and she's having a hard time hearing you. But anyway, they said you're in Atlanta at the airport?
Yeah. We're at the Atlanta airport.
Oh, awesome. So Holly and I are recording a podcast right now, so you're like live on our podcast.
Oh, wow. Honored. Let's go. I love it.
So within
Reading Smart podcast.
That's right. And this is season 3. This is episode 2. And
Okay.
we spent this whole episode, the last 16 minutes talking about this article that came out from Barna last month on the return of Gen Z to churches. Have you seen this?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very exciting.
Very exciting. So like really curious, what are you guys seeing? Was that a surprise to you? Are you already sensing that and seeing that with different, your different interactions with people around the country?
I definitely wouldn't say I'm surprised. I think I'm more excited that finally there's research coming out that's supporting what we're seeing, because I think as a millennial for so long, we heard the statistics over and over of 70% are leaving and it's getting really bad. It's getting really bad. And it felt like there was a shift happening. And to see that statistic come out felt affirming and encouraging. And honestly, for all of us, I think in the young adult next gen space, it's a little bit of an encouragement of, wait, maybe what we're doing is actually moving something in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think also because of, being post-COVID, I feel like a lot of people have lived in this, very social media heavy space that I feel like got them to a place of almost like it's an important time of history where I feel like a lot of Gen Zers are valuing human connection and human interaction, whether those are spaces or places or moments in our society that actually bring people together. I mean, we've even seen a spike with young adults really wanting to be a part of in-person gathering things. And so whether that's Bible studies or socials that we've been doing, we've seen an influx for sure in just young adults wanting to be in a space connecting with humans. So I think that could be a big part of it as well.
That's amazing. Holly, do you have anything? I'll have to repeat it since you're.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say, I realized I'm
Yeah.
going into your ears. No, I mean, I think that's so true. And it feels like 2025 for me has been seeing people really craving human connection 5 years later. And so I agree with them. It's just really affirming.
Yeah, she's just saying that she agrees, and that it's really affirming. And I'm experiencing that in my own household. Our 25-year-old, is living with us again here for a bit, and I'm just seeing him kind of re-engage in his faith and church connection and experience, which is super cool to watch. But you guys are so like kind to pick up the phone while you're at the airport.
Honored.
Easy.
Honored.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Including.
Anytime that we get a call from Tim Stevens, we're going to answer the call.
Wow, that just makes me feel good. But we talked a bit about Generation Distinct while we were getting ready to call you. So grateful for what you guys do to pour into young leaders.
Thank you. And thanks for all you do to bring awareness and advocate and coach us behind the scenes as well. That coaching that you gave us yesterday was super helpful for our team. So thank you.
That's awesome.
That's that one when I told you need to fire your husband, that part?
Oh no.
Oh, awkward timing.
Oh, I thought you already told him.
Yeah, not yet. That's coming later.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry to tell
no.
you I got a new job.
Good timing.
All right. Well, we'll
Poor
talk to you
Aaron.
guys later. Thanks for picking up.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was fun. I loved
Once we
it.
figured out our technical issues at the beginning,
Yeah,
then
no, we could
you
hear
were able
them
to hear.
great.
So,
Wherever you were holding them on
great.
your microphone was perfect. So,
All right.
yeah,
Now we know.
they're just both such gifted communicators too. I always just enjoy hearing them share what they're seeing and what's on their mind. So,
Yeah.
live from the Atlanta airport, Hannah and
That's
Aaron.
right. That was cool. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to today on Generation Z and the church resurgence that we're seeing. We would invite you to go to leadingsmart.com/podcast, where you can download our ebook for this season, which is, again, an ode to the Simply Strategic show. And please do go learn more about Generation Distinct. We'll have all that information there in the show notes as well. All right, Tim, thanks for being with me, and I'll
Good.
see you next time on episode 3.
All right.